Thank you for joining me for a time of looking at burnout in leadership. Some of you may be new to leadership positions in MTNA, and some, like me, have spent many years working in leadership positions with this wonderful organization. Just by way of introduction, my name is Rebecca Gruns-Johnson, and I have served as my local chair, state president of Ohio, chair of the Certification Commission during the rewrite of the certification process in 2010, chair of the New York City and Anaheim National Conferences. Then I joined the board of directors as vice president, president-elect, president, and immediate past president. During these decades, I have met many wonderful colleagues and made lifetime friendships. There have, however, been some times of stress and feelings of burnout in my own life and in some of my colleagues. In an attempt to understand how to deal with these times of pressure and stress, I began researching various areas of burnout in volunteer situations. Now, I will generally not be citing individual resources during this workshop, because much of the information comes from a combination of many different websites, most of which deal, interestingly enough, mainly with burnout in church volunteers. Information also comes from the books Burnout, The High Cost of Achievement by Herbert Freudenberger, and Career Burnout, Causes and Cures by Pines and Aronson. Many of these sources contain much of the same information and suggestions. If you have not already done so, I strongly recommend that you download and print out the accompanying worksheet for this session. Throughout our time together today, I will occasionally ask you to pause this video, spend some time in reflection, and then write your thoughts on the worksheet. So let's begin. As you look back over your past year or more of leadership positions, there may have been times when you have felt some symptoms of burnout. You may also have found that people serving with you on boards and committees have exhibited signs of stress and burnout too. This can lead to a refusal to continue as a volunteer leader, which will make it even more difficult to fill open vacancies, leading to greater stress for you. So even if you're not personally feeling any symptoms of burnout, you need to be able to personally know and watch for burnout in the people that you're working with so you can help them. As we discuss burnout in leadership, keep in mind that you may also be struggling with burnout in varying degrees in your life as a teacher and in your personal life. And this can interact with and intensify the feelings that you may be experiencing in all areas of your life. Now, I'd like for you to quiet yourself, close your eyes, draw within yourself. If you're in an area that's busy or noisy, try and find a place with your laptop or tablet that is quiet and away so you can center yourself. We're going to do a couple breathing exercises first. We're going to breathe in for 6 counts, hold for 6 counts, and then release for 6 counts. And I'd like for you to do this with your eyes closed. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, breathe in, hold, and release. Now, if you do need to do that a few more times, you go right ahead, stop the video, and then rejoin us when you feel centered. Now, with your eyes still closed, I'd like for you to picture your home, your studio, your office. See yourself teaching your students See yourself working on MTNA responsibilities, making and answering texts, phone calls, emails, working on the budget, writing an agenda, finishing out reports, leading board meetings. With your eyes still closed, how do you feel? Can you to some degree relate to any of these statements? I feel tired even when I've gotten enough sleep. I feel sad for no apparent reason. I'm forgetful. I'm irritable and snap at people. I'm withdrawn. I have trouble sleeping. I get sick a lot. My attitude about many things is, why bother? I sometimes get into conflicts with others. My job performance is not up to par. I use alcohol to feel better. Communicating with others is a strain. I can't concentrate like I once did. I'm easily bored. I work hard but accomplish little. I feel frustrated. I don't like working with some of the people on my board. Social activities are draining. Now you can open your eyes. These statements are listed on the first page of your handout, and they represent varying degrees of burnout. People experiencing burnout often have more and more negative emotions, such as frustration, anger, depression, dissatisfaction, and anxiety, until it becomes chronic. Eventually, the person complains of emotional fatigue. Feeling emotionally drained makes reacting to people and interacting with people more difficult. And when conflicts arise, the person with burnout is more likely to overreact with an emotional outburst or intense hostility. There's a reduced energy level and a dampened enthusiasm for life. We might view burnout as a personal energy crisis, with a demand for physical, mental, and emotional energy temporarily exceeding the supply, thereby really draining the individual's energy reserve. Feelings of, so what, why bother, become more predominant, and a cynical attitude towards others and ourselves can develop. Now, hopefully, none of you have experienced all the symptoms I've listed. If you have, you need to get very, very quickly to a good therapist. Some of you may never have experienced any of these symptoms, and there's a reason for that we'll talk about in a little bit. But most of you have probably experienced at least some of these symptoms. You may also have recognized some of these attitudes and symptoms are typical of some of your board or committee members. There are certain types of people who are more susceptible to burnout than others. Burnout occurs most often in dynamic, charismatic, goal-oriented men and women, in determined idealists who cannot compromise with reality. They seldom time for aloneness. They are people who set high goals for themselves and seem to have a built-in need for recognition. They are competent, self-sufficient people who hide their weaknesses well. Burnouts have busy schedules. They can always be counted on to do their share. They started out with great expectations and never compromised along the way. Burnouts tend to be very hard on themselves. By setting such high standards and pursuing them so fiercely, they ensure their own discontent. Nothing is ever enough. Every accomplishment leaves something to be desired. Research has shown that many times working women have more problems with burnout than men. Role conflict is a major stress shared by many women who are combining the careers of homemaker and professional. This is particularly a problem for studio teachers who are teaching after school, in the evenings, and on weekends, times that are normally considered family times. Relationships and family life are more closely correlated to burnout in women. The better a woman's relationships are, the less problem there is with burnout. But remember, you cannot burn out without a flame to begin with. Generally, laid back, easygoing type personalities have very little problem with burnout. Often, it is the younger person who has more problems with burnout. The older person has either developed categories and strategies for coping, or they've quit. Now, I'd like for you to pause the video and take a moment for reflection. On your handout, please write down several things in connection with your work for MTNA that you find to be stressful, boring, trivial, meaningless, unsuccessful, unappreciated, or unrewarding. Please take as long as you wish. Now, if this were a live session, we would have a discussion right now about what you wrote down. Since we can't do that, here are some of the things that I found to be stressful, boring, trivial, meaningless, unsuccessful, unappreciated, or unrewarding. See if they match any of yours. Recruiting and retaining members. How do you find them? Where do you find them? What can you offer in programs and services to retain them? This is an activity that seems to be never ending and can be very draining. Committee and board meetings that are dominated by one person with reoccurring flashpoints, disagreements, and agendas. It is the person that as soon as they walk in, you sigh. And as soon as their hand goes up where they start talking, you work hard not to roll your eyes. Criticism about a program or event that you have worked hard to initiate or produce, and in comes feedback, criticism. People who do not return emails, texts, or phone calls with needed information. Grr. And then there is the difficulty in recruiting volunteers to fill committee or board vacancies. That is, as I've talked to people, one of the top frustrations in leadership. Wrestling with the budget. There is nothing like the issue of money or the lack thereof to spark happiness, arguments, and turf wars. Mediating disputes. As my husband is fond of saying, never underestimate the pettiness of people. Have I hit a few of yours? I think probably so, although I'm sure you each have your own individual issues you could add to the list. Now I'd like for you to think about your hopes and expectations when you accepted this position of leadership. Burnout can sometimes be associated with a lost awareness of initial hopes and expectations. Were your initial expectations realistic? Were they naive? Were they uninformed? Did the president or board member before you help you have realistic expectations? Did they proactively help you transition into the position? And how are you going to help your new board member and committee members transition into the position and lessen their chances of burnout. Please pause the video and on your worksheet, write down how you were helped to transition into your position, if you were, and how you plan to help your new board and committee member transition into their post. See you on the other side. To help prevent leadership burnout, you need to maintain motivation. You know, motivation is determined largely by what happens after you act. You simply do not continue doing these things if they don't bring you any reward. If your motivation is to remain high, you must get wins for performing. A positive win occurs when you do something, such as come up with a good idea or implement a new policy. And as a result, something positive occurs. You feel satisfied. Positive wins can also be called giving yourself a pat on the back or self-affirmation. Giving yourself pats on the back and self-acknowledgement is essential in developing motivation. It's also essential for you to provide these affirmations for your colleagues as soon as you catch them doing something positive and helpful. One of the greatest causes of burnout is a feeling of helplessness. This is often felt between a rock and a hard place kind of situation. Often, a leader will institute a proposal or a change to mollify one group of unhappy members, only to have another group howl their opposition. Rarely is any decision met with unanimous approval. And this can create a great deal of frustration and feelings of helplessness. Feelings of helplessness can come from a lack of recognition for a job well done. Now I'd like for you to pause the video and write down some things that have over the years, or at least in the past year, made you feel helpless. See you in a minute. When I was president of Ohio, it seemed like I was constantly filling out reports and meeting various deadlines. No one from my state knew or cared that I was doing this on top of all my regular work. And no one indicated any great pleasure that I was meeting my deadlines. After a board meeting, rarely did anyone compliment me on running the board meeting. I guess that would be like telling your dentist that he gave you a great filling. It seemed like my energy was always going outwards, congratulating and stroking desperately needed workers. So whose job was it to stroke me? Obviously, we must acknowledge our own efforts and reward ourselves for a job well done. Another source of feelings of helplessness is ambiguity. When you're not sure what is expected. When there's a lack of a clear job description or clear goals, you cannot know if you're being successful. Your colleagues in leadership also need to have a clear understanding of what is expected of them. So how do we recognize, revitalize, and renew that sense of motivation that is so necessary in coping with the stresses and frustrations of a leadership position? In her book, Preventing Job Burnout, Transforming Work Pressures into Productivity, Beverly Potter suggests 7 paths to personal power. These are summarized for you on the last page of your sheet so that you don't have to madly copy everything down. Number 1, Self-management. The way you manage yourself has a direct impact on your motivation and satisfaction. Good self-managers enjoy working because they get more done and give themselves more credit. Managing yourself uses techniques such as using fun to reward dull work. After I finish this, I'm going to go out and take a walk. Patting yourself on the back for each task accomplished, and breaking big jobs down into small, realistically managed steps. But you know, the hardest part of accomplishing a goal is getting started, overcoming the inertia of the initial push. The best way to reach a goal is to break it into small steps that are more immediately doable than the big final goal. These small steps should set you up to win, for they're only as big as you know you can achieve with relative ease within the time that you have. Then you can also gradually stretch your abilities. No step is too small as long as there is some stretch and some movement forward. When you eventually reach that large goal and accomplish what you set out to do, you feel strong and in control. The second path is stress management. Stress is the fever of burnout. When a person is sick, reducing the fever may make them more comfortable, but it will not heal the illness. And so it is with stress. Reducing it increases your comfort, but will not eliminate the underlying causes of burnout, which often are feelings of powerlessness. It is the unrelenting chronic stress that causes many of the symptoms of burnout: exhaustion, health problems, irritability, intellectual impairment, and emotional outbursts. There is an optimum level of stress or stimulation. If it's too low, you will feel bored and depressed. If it's too high, you will feel like you are just spinning your wheels. The first step to controlling stress is to identify the situations that stress you and see how you respond to them. Many experts recommend keeping a personal stress log so you can write down when you feel angry, upset, pressured, anxious, worried, or frustrated. You can stop and look at yourself and the situation. When did it occur? What was the situation? Who was there? Rate your distress level using a scale from 1 to 10. How did you respond? What were your thoughts? How did you feel? And what did you do? From this, you can look for patterns. What generalization can you make about the times, people, or situations that were distressing? Are deadlines a frequent cause of panic? Is there a particular person or type of event that appears several times in your stress log? Perhaps you could foresee stressors and prepare for the encounter. How might you respond more effectively? Then develop a plan for change. Experts recommend reducing tension levels by meditating, breathing deeply, as we did at the beginning of the workshop, systematically relaxing those muscles. Unclench those teeth. Take those shoulders down from your ears. Relax and imagine a relaxing scene. Then there's building social support. Social support acts as a buffer against stress and workout. You can tolerate more stress when you have caring and supportive relationships. They reaffirm your self-worth. They give you feedback and encourage you to tackle challenges. Some ways to build good supportive relationships include: show interest in others. When they ask you how you are, most of the time, they really want to tell you how they are. Make others winners. Be helpful and ask for advice. It's not a sign of weakness, and other people will love to help you. Take time to build a network of allies. The most efficient people have allies throughout the organization. They cultivate friendly relationships at every level and help others. In turn, they can count on allies to help them when the need arises. Building skills. Each skill enlarges your horizon and personal power. Without the necessary skills to perform the job, it's difficult to have a win. Be sure that you are an effective time manager. You may need to reorganize your habits to take better control of your time and energy. Sloppy time management skills create their own stresses. Identifying and eradicating time wasters can add hours to the day. Now, I would guess you have some colleagues and friends on Facebook, just like mine, where as you go down through the posts, you see they've posted how tired they are in the morning, and they've posted lots of pictures of their pets, and maybe they've posted a picture of what they've had for lunch or dinner, and then it's going for midnight, and they're still posting about how tired they are, how far behind they've been. They're so frustrated, they're so stressed. And I just want to privately speak to them and say, get off Facebook. Quit doing all the complaining and the pictures and the messing around and get the work done, and you'll get to bed and not be so tired. But of course, we can't do that, can we? Also, they say use tempo control, using pacing to predict accurately what can be handled, take only that amount, and then work steadily towards that accomplishment. This skill helps alleviate the crisis mentality that promotes a feeling of being always under pressure. Sometimes, when we're not functioning efficiently, our energy is more devoted to avoiding negative situations than pursuing positive ones. Eventually, you feel incompetent, incapable, and helpless. And then there's tailoring the job. Most jobs are shaped more by the last person who had this job than the actual demands of the position. The job description is usually a bare skeleton of the responsibilities of that position. Try to tailor the job to fit your strengths. Now, over the past years, past presidents in Ohio have had different strengths and made different contributions to the organization during their terms of office. One took the necessary steps to straighten out an incorporation status that had been lapsed. Another was very good with numbers and was able to avert a possible financial problem down the road. Another was interested in improving the website and making it more user-friendly on mobile phones. You have certain strengths that you can bring to the office that your predecessor may not have had. When you tailor the job to your strengths, you'll feel more in command and increase your feelings of effectiveness and personal power. Take possession of unattached problems that you feel you can solve and that interest you. It's also important to let your new committee and board members understand that they have different strengths than their predecessors and help them really develop those strengths. Sixth, thinking positively. You feel what you think. If you think powerless, negative thoughts and see yourself as losing, you will feel powerless, depressed, and frustrated. If you think powerful thoughts and see yourself winning, you will feel powerful, hopeful, energized, feelings that will prevent burnout. Attitude is a style of thinking. Focus positively on what you can do. Taking control of your thoughts is training your mind. When you think a helpless, negative thought, inwardly yell, "Stop it!" and switch to a powerful, positive thought. Break the habit of negative thinking and reward yourself for positive thinking. There's a saying that I like, and it is, fake it till you feel it. Now, I'd like to read you a story from a book by Pines and Aronson, and it goes like this. We encountered two people who held the same job in a bank in a bookstore in a small university town. One of them developed burnout. "My job is so boring. I can't take it anymore. All I do is sell books or help people find them, which I can't do effectively because I don't know where most of the books are anyway. Sometimes there are no people in the store and all I do is sit and wait for the day to end." The other person presented a different picture. "I make it a point to know about most of the new books that come into the store. I read their covers and try to read some of them at home or at the store when there are no customers. I feel that I'm constantly learning about books and about people. I sometimes exchange opinions with customers and like to know what kinds of books each person buys. I'm busy all the time and I don't have one moment of boredom." These two people shared an external environment, but their internal environment differed markedly. One made himself open to new experiences, the other did not. Number 7, detached concern. There is a delicate balance between involvement and non-attachment. We need to immerse ourselves in the moment, in the doing, and let go of the outcome. We can't demand wins all the time. Realize that the organization will continue to function, possibly in spite of you. Your actions are not of such paramount importance that one misstep will doom the organization. Within this detached concern, there are 3 particular areas for discussion. First, be yielding or flexible, as this story demonstrates. Each day during the winter, snow fell on 2 trees in a field. The firm limbs of the big, strong oak tree supported the snow until the branches, no longer able to bear the weight, broke and fell. Next to the oak tree, a pine tree also accumulated snow, but its limbs were supple, not rigid. They bent to the ground and let the snow slide off and then returned to their original position. The pine tree survived the winter. The oak tree did not. Like water flowing downstream, flow around the rocks in life. Be flexible. Don't be attached to a particular notion of the way things ought to be. Look for alternative and creative ways to reach your goals. Second, shift your viewpoint. Philosopher Alan Watts once said something that I think you have to think about for a little while, but is true. Problems that remain persistently insolvable should always be suspected as questions asked the wrong way. Do you trap yourself in damned if you do and damned if you don't situations by the way you look at things? Think about things in new ways. See problems as opportunities. See hassles as teachers. And third, laugh a lot. When you catch yourself taking things too seriously, laugh. Think of it as the cosmic chuckle and the absurdity of it all. Satirize your distress. As a discipline, practice finding humor in disaster. You'll save your sanity, your health, and your perspective. Now, we've discussed the symptoms of burnout, its causes, and some strategies for coping with varying degrees of burnout. But these concepts will not reduce the number of reports you have to fill out, the emails and texts you must read in response to, the vacancies you must fill, the ornery people you must work with. They can, however, change the way you view these challenges and how you reward yourself for your many, many accomplishments. I hope this video has been helpful for you. Thank you.